Okay. Okay.
All right, let's get on with the business questions.
First off, will you ever say I love you back to Doug?
I am literally shivering.
Hold on.
Because
Let me get you some boiling water. You go ahead and answer.
that'll be okay. I'm also getting a little dizzy. Probably not, because that would be too off-brand and uncharacteristic of me. However, just to be clear, just because something is not said does not mean it is not true. I am literally going to get sick. Oh, it is like actually boiling. It is steaming and bubbling boiling.
How close do you want it?
I'm not sure. I've never done this before.
You are literally shivering.
I am actually shivering. It's extremely.
It's not that cold. It's really not.
It is
I'll roll
extremely
it here.
cold. Okay, how do I get to the? Okay, I need to swim to the.
Yeah, Perkster doesn't like swim or anything.
I don't like I don't like water in general. Okay, that was helpful for like 2 seconds.
I can pee in the pool. Right
I
now.
don't want you to pee in the. Okay, I'm also getting extremely dizzy because I'm moving around.
Next business question for you.
If one wanted to start a multi-level marketing business that happened to be pyramid-shaped, what would be the best way to start?
Wait, I literally cannot think because I'm so shiveringly cold.
Why don't you get out of the water?
I'm now extremely dizzy. The best way to start would be probably not to start, because even though it'll be productive now, eventually you will get prosecuted for it. However, if you insist on starting a pyramid scheme, you should find something that is interesting to people and can convince them to make an initial investment. Probably something that would be compelling to the general public. I'm still extremely freezing cold. I can't tell if I'm colder up here because now I am evaporating.
I can pour boiling water on you. I can pee on you.
Not
like
on
a
me.
jellyfish.
Do you have more pots of boiling water?
No, I just had the one.
Okay, well that's not helpful.
I can try to use the sink over there.
Yes, if you can get hot water, that'd be fantastic. For
While I
those-
do that, the next question. Parkster, very important business inquiry. Would you rather have unlimited bacon but no video games, or unlimited games? Hold on. Would you rather have unlimited bacon but no more video games, or games, unlimited games but no more games?
Neither. That question does not make sense. If they intended to ask whether or not I would have bacon or games, I'd probably pick games. Because I don't really eat too much bacon anyway.
No. The question is, would you rather have unlimited bacon but no more video games, or games, unlimited games but no more games?
Okay, so then the options boil down to, boil. I'm not boiling. The options come down to either I have unlimited bacon, or I just give up games with nothing in return, which in that case, I would take the unlimited bacon.
Parkster, have you taken any drugs in your life? This is a serious question. Answer pretty please.
I mean, many things count as drugs. I tend to avoid things
Meth.
like I've never done meth.
Crystal meth.
I have never done any form of meth, including crystal meth.
Turbo meth.
I have not. That I believe counts. Is that even a thing?
Sure you haven't.
I'm not winking. It may look like I'm. Am I inadvertently winking because I'm shivering?
I think you kind of gave me a little
That's-
huh?
okay,
a little, little little shiver.
I need to adjust my outfit to ensure I am maximally business professional.
Parkster, we've gotten through 5 questions. How much longer do you think you can stand this?
I feel like at this rate I could go for a decent amount of time.
Okay.
But that is probably at the expense of my health. Because right now I feel like I am producing a lot of adrenaline because I literally just more or less took an ice bath and then never actually came out of the ice bath fully.
For the record, I'm not trying to talk shit about Parkster. It's not that cold.
This
is not
freezing
It
cold.
is not freezing cold water.
Freezing
It is
cold.
Business question. I need help getting out of Doug's basement. Any tips or tricks?
Just get out. Take the steps up, open the door, and walk out.
How do they escape the traps? All right, next question. How many times have you shot your gun? That's a good question about business.
I wouldn't say it's about business. Probably in the low.
In the line of business, how many times have you shot
In the
your
line
gun?
of business, 0. In terms of actually shooting a firearm, probably in the low few thousands. Because every time I go to a training session, it's usually between 1 to 200-ish rounds, I think.
So that's 100 people that you shoot each time?
No,
Or
it's-
one person that you shoot 100 times?
I shoot one target
Oh.
100 or to 200 times, or multiple targets.
Parts
but
of the human beings. Talk
they're
about them
not. They're not human beings. In terms of literal live human beings, or even dead human beings, it is 0.
yet.
I mean, hopefully ever, but I mean, technically, you're not wrong when you say yet.
So thousands of times in total?
A low few thousands, I think, but all for training purposes. With no wink.
Okay, a lot of people seem genuinely interested in this. What is your opinion on renting versus buying a home? You have traveled a lot, so you must be renting, staying in a hotel a lot.
So renting versus buying is
Some hot water.
is heavily dependent on your personal situation. There are a lot of factors to consider, including stuff like whether or not you have job security, or like if you get terminated. Being in a house, an owner-occupied property is going to limit the breadth of where you can find a new job. This one is not boiling, right? Okay.
Where that came from?
Okay.
You were the one that was adamant this would work.
Still extremely cold. It also depends on how much loose capital you have. So if you have the money to invest in a property and you want to owner occupy it, I guess that is fine. But consider that there is an opportunity cost. Housing market is very uncertain right now. It seems like the market is going dramatically up, but there is the element of, at least in the United States, just to clarify, I am a United States citizen. All of the business that I conduct is within the United States, apart from like occasional international contractors. So I don't know for sure. But keep in mind that the United States recently printed an astronomical amount of money during the COVID-19 pandemic. So even though the markets look like they are doing fine, I don't think it's actually fine. So that is something to keep in mind. The housing market is extremely volatile at this time, so you should consider that before purchasing a property. A lot of people claim that renting is just throwing money away, but that is absolutely not the case. A lot of times there are abstract or there's non-quantifiable benefits that you can get from renting, and the mobility that you have, the peace of mind that, like for example, you don't have to suffer catastrophic losses in case of a natural disaster or something like that. So there's like factors like that to consider. There are a lot of good resources online when it comes to, are you by chance zooming in really close to my face? Because I see you,
No, I'm checking focus. This lens can't zoom. Don't worry.
I literally don't believe you. You are literally trolling.
Chat can tell. Chat, have
I
zoomed
don't
in the
have
camera?
chat, I am wet.
No, you can read it right there.
Where? I literally do not have chat.
It's so close we can see your eyelashes right now. We can see your nose hairs.
Okay. Does this angle work better for my nose hairs? I recommend looking up online resources because, to be clear, I am not a real estate agent and I am
you
not
want me
a
to pour this on
financial.
you?
Not on me.
It's not boiling.
Wait.
I mean, still not on me.
Just put that in the water and have him put his foot in.
Yeah, okay, here we go.
That's not how water works.
So now just put your feet in that.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense.
Okay, but let's. Oh my god. Okay, let's stay focused on what everybody's here for, which is business.
Okay, next business question. What are your thoughts on Updog?
I have no opinions on Updog.
I don't think he fell for it, chat. Nice try. How many porn stars have you done business with?
I generally don't disclose the number or the identities of people I work with. We generally have, there's no wink to that. Also, this water is already extremely cold again.
Well, yeah, you dunked the whole thing. All right, I'll go get more.
So prior to conducting or entering in engagement letters, we usually have a non-disclosure agreement where we, hold on, I need to fix my business suit. Okay.
I do want to clarify. Parksher's not playing this up. He yesterday was not willing to put a single foot in the water because it made him dizzy. So this is putting himself through a lot of pain right now.
I'll generally sign non-disclosure agreements where the definition of confidential information does almost always include the existence of the actual contract itself. So I almost never disclose who I work with. However, I let the other person breach that and disclose it if they want to. So the best way to find out would be technically to go to other people and
Every
ask.
porn star.
Basically, yes, because I'm not going to breach that confidentiality agreement. Also, to clarify, I'm not starring in adult entertainment films with them. I am providing business advisory services to them without a wink.
I saw a wink. You guys can't, because he zoomed back out, so they can't see.
If there was a wink, it was a shiver because I'm cold again.
Oh, this is a good business question. How marketable do you think you would be as a plushie?
Probably not marketable at all, actually, because a lot of times, in terms of like merchandise in general, including plushies.
Wait, you replied to this.
Yeah, so I.
Parksher, these were supposed to. Do you read
So-
all these in advance?
Not all of them, but I did. I did read.
That was the whole point!
I read a bunch of them last night because you pinged everyone in Discord, and the questions were so catastrophically bad that I felt bad for the people who actually asked real questions. So I answered like a handful of real questions before
Okay.
I realized I probably should just wait until today.
Yes.
So that was late last night.
Okay.
The questions suck. Like 98% of these questions are awful. So for plushies and merchandise in general, a lot of times you have to market those to children. So like there are adults who collect merchandise or like collectibles, but a lot of times the main market you want to target for toys is children. And I feel like I'm not very child friendly.
I've always
are
thought
you-
that about you as well.
More hot water. Long story short, probably not at all.
If you just pour it into the soup.
Pour both your hands in. Ah!
Wait, you can't get dizzy. We have to be able to eat 10 pounds of seafood.
How's that?
It's very warm.
So the hands was like a trick.
Okay, it's cold again. Can you bring more hot water?
I want to know the answer to this. Would dual-wielding handguns be practical or any more practical than just using a single firearm? And before you answer,
Why don't you demonstrate?
Okay, I'm cold and dizzy again, so I forgot the question.
stop getting in the water. It makes you dizzy.
Oh.
You pre-read all the questions and keep jumping in the water.
I forgot that. What's the question?
Would dual-wielding handguns be practical or any more practical than just using a single firearm?
You say to shoot it at the
Say,
camera?
don't shoot at the camera. That's
Oh,
yeah.
why not?
More
That's
water.
a wet, tart, very nice lens.
It's pretty funny though.
It is pretty funny. It is pretty funny. I think we should see if Parkser is qualified to talk about guns based on whether or not he can shoot the camera lens directly.
Okay, I'm getting really dizzy, but at least this is warm. If you are literally so skilled at one-handing firearms that you can accurately hit your target, then yes, I guess it's more bullets. If you don't have access to like an automatic firearm or something, I guess in those very fringe case scenarios it would, but in an overwhelming majority of situations it would not.
I think the gun is waterlogged.
This is very flaccid. Ah, this is nice.
Stop going in! We're about to eat food!
It's warm. Ah, so dizzy, but so warm. Wait, why are you, what am I supposed to do with this? Am I supposed to keep trying until I hit the lens?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
No.
Alright, last chance.
Last chance.
The funny man is saying yes. The camera operator is saying no.
It'd be funny!
One shot.
One shot.
I've already had 2 shots and I missed. 'cause
One
it's a very-
shot.
Okay, I guess I can angle it up.
That's too
And
high.
then, I mean, I angled it directly at it and it felt like on the
Yeah,
floor.
so, yeah, you have to go higher for sure. Hit
I hit the
monitor.
screen. Okay.
Okay.
I am curious about this one. If I were to take all of my money and dump it in a river, would that be tax deductible?
No, because you are intentionally doing it. If you had your money stolen and it got thrown into a river,
That's tax deductible?
yes, to clarify, I am not an accountant. I'm not a financial advisor, and this information may be outdated. In the United States, there was recently a law passed by the Trump administration that made changes to this, but if you are a victim of theft and you can prove that it was an actual theft, then yes, I believe that is tax deductible. Your theft losses can be tax deductible if it is not covered by insurance. But yes, if you get something stolen and it is of significant value, it would be worth consulting a financial advisor about that because there may be some tax deductible opportunities for you for the cost of what you got stolen. But if you destroy your own property, then no.
Wait, why didn't you tell me that before I threw all my money in the pool last night?
You can go get it.
Let's do a few more. How are you feeling?
Extremely dizzy and very cold.
You should get out so that you can stop being dizzy so you can eat food.
Water, hot water.
Put your hand in that.
Feels exactly the same
Put your hand in
temperature.
there. There you go.
So
So,
right here, it gets nice and warm for like a good 3 seconds, and now it's cold again. Now I'm dizzy again.
Okay. Here, Barry, why don't you ask some questions?
Are you gonna go get your money?
No, you can have it. I'll go get the waxing gloves.
Oh,
How long will you need before you can eat food?
maybe like tomorrow. I'm extremely dizzy, right? I'm not showing it.
You should get out of the pool.
You forgot to. Never mind.
what?
You didn't forget anything. That's okay.
Are you okay?
No, but yeah.
What is supply and demand? But explain it with food.
Does water count as food?
Well, usually they say food and water, so no.
Hello, squirrel. I made a determination that water is indeed food for this example.
All right.
So, supply would be the hot or boiling water, and demand is my need for the hot and boiling water because this hot tub is broken and it's actually a cold tub. And I'm going to freeze to death. I'll probably get sick tomorrow. I am literally shivering. So the supply, because it is lower than my demand, because I demand an entire tub full of hot water, but there is limited supply. So I could incentivize Barry to give me hot water faster by, for example, threatening to push him into the pool if he does not. Okay, this is. I'm dizzy again.
Were you actually gonna push me in the pool? Next question. What ice cream flavors will you be giving the mods?
I don't know yet. For those who are unfamiliar, during the Monterey Bay Aquarium, no, my gun. During the Monterey Bay Aquarium charity stream, one of the stretch goals. Oh, okay. Hello. One of the stretch goals was to give the Doug Doug moderators in general an ice cream party. That is in progress. We don't know what flavor, but I guess it depends on how we do the logistics of it. I assume we're going to do a poll for the mods to see what the best effective way to do this is. And then I'll probably, just to make it funny, if somebody requests something very strange, we'll get like one container of the really strange flavor, like hot dog,
Yeah.
like hot dog ice cream.
Yeah, I could.
Have you tried it? I think it's
Hot
actually.
dog ice cream?
Yeah.
You've tried it?
Yeah.
Is it sweet or does it just taste like a hot dog?
It just tastes like a hot dog, but it's like a really weird texture, so like you get really confused.
Next question. If you could choose any breed of dog to promote your business, what breed would you pick?
Oh, what's the dog that's like basically a dinosaur? Not a dinosaur. What's the dog that's like really? It's like a Belgian Malinois or something.
Does anybody know? Someone said Velociraptor.
No. Belgian. It's like a Belgian Mal.
How about a poodle then?
No.
Yeah, okay, we can go with that. Let's see. Wait, you already answered this question. What is
Was
the
it
most
a good question? Just to be clear.
You already answered this.
Doug posted this on Discord last night and asked people to go on Reddit to
It
submit
wasn't
questions.
for you.
I like saw the ping, so I opened the thing, and I was like, let me browse through these questions. And then I realized that 98% of them are absolute garbage. So for the few percent that like actually were good questions, I started answering them. It's like, hey, this person actually wants my assistance. And then I realized that I should probably not do that and wait for today. What was the question though?
The question was, what is the most financially affordable price for a missile launcher for somebody with a middle-class income? Same goes with a private jet. A question
So-
that he has already answered.
So for
In Reddit.
So to start, for missile launchers, grenade launchers, or any kind of firearms, I'm not the best person to ask. I know very little about firearms apart from just the two that I own. So if you go to pretty much any gun store or gun range, you will find staff members there. I am still freezing cold. You will find staff members there who are going to help you understand like what your options are and where you can find firearms like that. So I recommend doing that for the missile launcher. As for a private jet in terms of middle class income, one thing that is very important to remember is that there are a lot of maintenance costs or like repairs,
hold on.
upkeep, and other staffing costs associated with purchasing a private jet. So even
I feel like warmth. I just peed.
Go get him! Go get him! Go get him!
Dude,
So if you-
we're about to eat food. It's
get it.
ready in like 3 minutes.
you're sitting at your foot.
Yeah, you're sitting on my foot.
So if you, I'm so dizzy again. I forgot the question. What was the question?
I don't know.
Oh,
Birthdays.
the private jet. So even if you have high net worth and can afford a private jet, make sure you have allocate enough where you either have like ongoing dividends that you're earning from your net worth. Because if you have a middle class income, it's gonna be very difficult to afford your normal lifestyle in addition to all the upkeep and maintenance costs for the jet. So there is an alternative for private jet ownership, which wouldn't exactly be ownership, it would just be having access to a semi-private jet. Lately there have been companies like Jet Suite X, Surf Air, SetJet, XO. Those are all companies where they basically operate a chartered private jet service, but you only have to buy a single seat or a set of seats rather than chartering the whole plane as a private jet. So I recommend checking out companies like that. I used to fly quite a bit on JSX in between
You
Hollywood.
flew private jets?
It's. I literally just explained that it is not actually a private jet. It is
But, like-
it's like a semi-private. Yes.
That's awesome.
JSX. It's not actually private. You can purchase a seat on there. Pricing ranges between like $300 to $600 for like round trip between Las Vegas and Hollywood Burbank. So I would take that sometimes. Usually I would take like major commercial airlines because it's substantially cheaper and it's not actually that much of a difference for a short flight. But if I needed to get to specifically Hollywood Burbank on very short notice, a lot of times JSX would be a reasonable option because commercial flights, the prices will spike up substantially once you get closer to the takeoff time. So like there's niche situations where it actually would make sense for just a normal person to take JetSuiteX or any kind of like semi-private chartered jet. And if you want a semi-private or like a jet experience as a middle-class person, I think that's sort of your best bet to get it. But yeah, the key takeaway here is don't get baited into purchasing extremely expensive things because the upkeep and maintenance of that is going to creep up on you. A lot of times people say you shouldn't purchase something unless you know you can buy 2 of it, and that second portion of it is going to be for the upkeep cost. Hello. Hello, Douglas. Douglas.
Oh, we're live.
Hello, live. I do not know why Douglas is in a unicorn costume. Wait, you literally don't even have
I don't know if I could do this. Yes, you can. Come on, he's not that scary. See? You're fine. You're right. Okay, here I go. Hey, I don't know what to say to him. Just go in there and tell him how you feel. Constipated? No, but yeah, that's where it's happening. Stop! Just tell him what you want. I want better friends! No, and ouch. I meant what you wanted to propose about your character. Oh, right. Hey, Mr. DM, friend, yeah, so, first of all, you speak English? No. Yep, thought so, yep. Wait, so I was just wondering if we could talk about my character, cause... Hey! What brings you here? What? So you know my character, right? Of course you did. You helped me make it. Ah! I'm making a fool of myself. How am I supposed to talk to a god like that? That's it. Stroke his ego a little bit. I can't believe I didn't think of that. If I was a woman, I would date you. If you were a tree, you'd be a pretty good tree. Now, I'm not saying you're ugly, but if you walked into a game store, you'd be the most attractive man there. Yeah, you like that. You like that, don't you? It's not working. He's not even paying attention to me. Oh, you should bring in some type of offering. Oh, smart thinking. DM, I bring you the heads of your enemies. Now, before we get to talking about my character, I just need to wire some money, so could you tell me your bank information for me, please? Guess who has 2 tickets to the fancy restaurant downtown? That's right, we're going to McDonald's. My mom recently divorced, and you can date her if you want. Yeah, maybe you could try... You know what, no! I'm tired of all of this! I'm just gonna go ask him. No, wait, Duke! Dungeon Master! I come to talk. I want to switch my character. I'm not having a fun time playing my current one. Yeah, that's fine. It is? Yeah, if you're not having fun, go ahead and change your character. Your enjoyment is way more important than a storyline. Okay. Wow, okay. Geez, man, I had nothing to worry about. Now is your dad open for dates? I'm sorry? Oh, man, that was a twist. But could you imagine? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to more TTRPG's horror. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to more TTRPG horror stories. I'm Duke, and this is Wife.
I am Wife.
And I got some interesting stories to tell. These are stories where you like initially will read them, and you go, okay, and then you start reading the comments, and like OP will say more, like a lot more details than what was left out, and you're just like, oh. Again, as a reminder, these videos are to provide advice to hopefully help people in certain situations that they may face just like this, or help people avoid situations like this. And I want you to know that I am a licensed therapist, and
Duke is fired, and canceled
And everything
by his
I
wife
say-
just now. Start reading.
fine. All right, you ready?
No!
This one is titled Rules for Thee, But Not For Me. I, 20 female, am new to DMing, and this happened 2 sessions ago, in what was supposed to be session 1. I say suppose as I had to retcon the whole session. There were 4 people involved: me, DM/female satyr druid, male goblin fighter rogue, male human monk, and male Aasimar artificer problem player. That's a lot to keep up with, but we're just focusing on the male Aasimar artificer and the DM. Potential issues started rearing their ugly head even before the session as Artificer and I created our characters. Well, I created a character and he took one which he used previously, admitting to having used it in 38 campaigns, which fizzled out due to reasons.
That is the most sus thing
That is a lot of
I
campaigns.
have ever heard.
I originally intended to make a male satyr paladin, but Artificer pushed me to make a Tempest cleric as it would be similar to a paladin but more powerful. I told him repeatedly that I won't be making a Tempest cleric. Due to world building, only clerics and paladins of a religion X can use magic without repercussions, and a Tempest cleric wouldn't belong to said religion. Okay.
Fair.
To shut him up, I decided to make a druid as that also worked with the plot. I then searched for a picture to represent my character. I landed on one I liked, and Artificer asked me if I'd be willing to change my character to a redhead. I went along with it because Circle of Wildfire, way to go DM, he proceeded to send me pictures, none of which particularly caught my fancy, but he advocated for the one I was absolutely opposed to, a picture of a busty satyr wearing a tunic with a deep cleavage, as I knew that if she bent over, it could cause an NSFW, not safe for work situation. In the end, I kept my
Thank you
own...
for clarifying.
You're welcome.
I was like, what?
In the end, I kept my OG pick. Good for you.
Blessings.
The session started in a small town, which I described as a human town on the edge of a deep forest, where elvish freedom fighters lurk. There was supposed to be a big neon sign, plot that way, so fighter and monk choose to be already in town drinking and shopping respectively. I put my satyr on a tree branch, playing her pan flute, so Artificer decides he'd be flying under my tree when he notices me. An argument ensues where I try to explain that he'd have to look up in order to see me, and he argues that he's looking forward and stopping every once in a while to look around. It's BS, but I want the session to continue. Some shenanigans later, Artificer, unhappy that the local smith didn't let him, a random stranger, use his forge, decides to head to the capital and get his license. He basically grabs Fighter and Monk with the intention of flying there. I try to deter him, telling him that it would take 2 days to get there, but he barrels on. I take the opportunity of them making camp to kickstart the plot, asking if anyone would drink from the river. The fighter says he would, fails his nature check, and I tell him he thinks the water is perfectly safe. It's not.
Jokes.
Of course, Artificer tries to be like, oh, I cast detect magic and the water is cursed. Both Fighter and Monk confront Artificer about it, asking why he'd do that since the characters are clueless about the evil shenanigans going on, and also because magic is outlawed. Artificer argues paranoia and that nobody would even see him in the woods. Right, because lumberjacks don't exist and you are 100% sure the monk isn't a mole. Dang.
Wow.
They arrive in the capital, surrender their weapons, although there's a facepalm moment as Artificer says he needs his hand axes to deal with mages. We're all like, man, you sound psycho. He argues that the town guard should be pleased with him. I explained that mage implies priest as nobody else officially has magic. It's at this point when Artificer questions the need for secrecy, asking how they'd even detect him as detect magic has a 60-foot radius. Monk is quick to answer that they can use scrying bowls for surveillance. A bit of basic math later, I confirm the city could be housing hundreds of priests. Now Artificer argues that artificers aren't magic users. Okay? One quick Google later, I tell him that use of magic appears in the first sentence of the class description. He tries to argue with what ifs, which boils down to if he was in his civvies and unarmed, he'd be undetectable. Sigh. By the way, artificers, for anyone who don't know, artificers are wizard tinkering people, pretty much.
Tinkerbell.
Not Tinkerbell. But anyway.
Tinker.
So Artificer decides to join the church, proceeds to surprise Pikachu Face when he's not immediately inducted into priesthood. Monk and I explain that priesthood requires 5 years of training and a master's. Artificer uses Middle Ages as an excuse. I retort the theology faculty of Charles University existed for 200 years by the time the story begins. Monk suggests joining the Adventures Guild. It's now that Artificer reveals his full name is Death Sentence. I get a nervous tick, telling him that the contract would be null and void as legal documents can't be signed using your nickname and nobody would believe that was his legal name. He gets huffy, saying that was what his parents named him as they abandoned him. I argued that since he's alive, someone found and raised him and this someone would register him under a normal name. I pointed out that rules about naming children are quite strict and were even stricter in the Middle Ages. This argument went on for an hour until I gave up and moved on with the plot. The party selected a quest and went off to the nearby woods. After collecting their reward, I ended the session telling Artificer we would be continuing without him.
Wow.
Oh, there's a lot to digest. There's a lot to digest here.
So was the OP the DM or?
Yeah, the OP was the DM
Okay.
and playing a PC character.
My vibe right off the bat is this guy just was hardcore metagaming. That was it. He wanted it to go a certain way, and like the detect magic thing right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like, how would you know someone had to make a nature check?
Wants to be the hero.
Or just wants to be the smartest one in the room.
That too.
Actually, the this, the that, right? I mean, I don't know what his goals or his intentions are. What I'm understanding, though, is that there may have not... Was this session 0 or was this session 1?
2 sessions ago in what was supposed to be session 1.
Okay, so there's no clarification if there was a session 0.
Yeah, there's no clarification.
Okay. So then with that, there wasn't... What it sounds like is this DM made a very, very good world.
Very detailed.
Yeah, and it sounds like everybody else playing knew a lot pertaining to the game.
Yeah.
And so either they did have a good discussion beforehand and the DM clarified, hey, this is the world, these are the rules, like, within this world, this is what we're playing off of, like, what... Because, yeah, if they're set in the medieval times... You're not going to have technology like they do now.
Yeah.
You're not going to have certain things. Like, things are different. You kind of got to change your mindset with that.
Yeah.
So if that was clarified, then this guy was just kind of being a turd and wanted to change things the way he wanted it to go.
Right. This sounded like to me, I know there was a conversation a couple episodes back where we said, Dungeon Masters, it's not your job to fight with your players.
Yeah.
This to me is now me telling the players, don't fight with your Dungeon Master. First of all, he played the same character from 38 sessions, or 38 campaigns apparently, that fizzled out. Fizzled.
That sounds so sus to me, and I
Right.
feel like those weren't actual campaigns. They could have been a couple one-shots.
They could have just been what we witnessed here.
Yeah.
I don't see anyone winning this. I'm not looking at the Dungeon Master being a hero or making the right calls or whatnot. I'm not looking at the players or the problem player who's doing all of this. It sounded like the 2 other players who were playing were making good calls and were really trying to keep everything together.
Yeah.
It seemed like those 2 people were trying to keep everything together. I didn't like how the Dungeon Master wrote this because there was a lot of pent up aggression. You can tell just with the words and how the writing is. And it almost sounded like they were really trying to make this person sound bad with like side comments and things. I don't too much agree with that. And so part of me's wondering if this was actually as serious as it was, or it's just a little bit, they're adding more spice to it because it's been simmering.
Yeah, I mean, this could be that the DM is exaggerating. Like, the conversation about the name stuff may have not been an hour. Could have been 20 minutes. Could have been 15. Like,
Right.
I do agree with that, where it does feel like there is a lot of dramatic sense to it.
Right.
And it does seem like they're is a like weird pettiness and some things done in spite or whatever. And so yeah, that's one of those things where I think it's just if you don't get along and if you want to play the game a certain way and you discover very quickly that, you know, maybe I'm not going to get along with these other players, then like talk about it first to figure it out and try to iron things out. Like, it's good to talk first because you could be under a misunderstanding of something and they could be under the misunderstanding of something. There really could be something else there that we're not aware of. And so once there is a conversation and a conversation has been tried to have and it goes well, then like keep playing. But if it doesn't go well, then figure something else out and find a group that fits your personality and your goals better. Because I know it's hard to find groups in the first place, but it's better to find a group that you get along with and are having a good time with rather than just finding a group for the sake of being able to play a player.
It was already sounding bad when the Dungeon Master was in a tree playing a flute and the Asmar was flying under, and she didn't like that this player already caught her up in the tree, saying he had to look up. But she was playing the flute, which would have caught his attention. So that, to me, it's always like there was already something, like, this Dungeon Master was bothered right from the start. I feel like we're just repeating what we said.
Beating a dead horse here.
Yeah, we're beating a dead horse. We'll move on. All right, you ready for this one?
Let's do this.
All right, here we go. DM instant kills 2 of my characters in the same session. Basically, I DM at a game store where we do weekly one-shots. I'm one of the more consistent DMs, and after the store canceled our sessions for 2 weeks, the next time we ran sessions, I actually got to play for the first time in over a month. I was telling the other DMs how excited I was to be able to play one of either 2 characters I made. One of them, who wasn't the DM in the story, kept joking about how he's gonna kill my character. So we're playing a module that was written for 11th level characters, but for some reason the DM sets the player levels at 9 with no magic items. After about an hour and a half of making our way to the fortress, we enter our very first combat. Even with alert feat, I rolled an 11 for initiative, so I'm near the bottom. A creature made an attack against me that made me fall prone without a save, and then the DM targeted my player with a death ray from a beholder, which I fail, which instantly disintegrates me before I get a single turn. Okay, it was kind of funny, and we've never really had PC deaths before. I already had another sheet ready, and that character entered combat when it actually came to my original characters first, so that's fine.
Hey, that's a good start.
After being forced to flee combat because we were definitely not set up to fight these kinds of creatures at our level and party size, we make it to some room where we're supposed to be investigating some magic artifact. All our Arcana checks do is validate that there's some sort of magic wall/secret passageway in the room, so my character goes up to it, and I trip a glyph of warding that has a disintegrate spell that instantly kills me. Again. Boy gets disintegrated twice with 2 different characters.
This sounds like a fool me once.
Oh, just
fool
wait.
me twice.
While it was my choice to investigate the wall, we did literally make an Arcana check, and all we got from a 15 result was that it was a magical. The DM didn't warn me out of game that maybe we should possibly be careful about approaching this, considering she literally just killed my character. There was no hint at all that this was going to be a literal instant death trap. I'm a DM and I have no problem with player deaths, but I also know how to run my game in a way that isn't shitting on a single player because it feels bad. I ended up making a 3rd character that she said she was going to introduce, but for the last hour of the session, I literally just sat there and my 3rd character never got introduced. Cool. There's an edit. The DM in the story is running her last session this week. I plan on making a Gloomstalker rogue assassin just to cheese her encounters this week so that even if I die, I at least get to nuke something's health before that. To be honest, I think that's totally fair given what she did to me last week, and I hate the Gloomstalker assassin, and it's so lame, but if I'm going to potentially die before my first turn, you know for a fact I'm going to try to get a kill or 2 in. So, first of all, a lot of people in the comments are like, wow, the DM sounds like a complete dick. What a horrible, horrible Dungeon Master. I can't believe this Dungeon Master would do this and single you out. You gotta scroll down the comments a little bit, because then the OP posts and goes,
I'm the DM.
No. There's a comment that says, I don't think the DM likes you, OOC, very much. He then posts quite a lengthy paragraph and goes, I guess there was one piece of context I left out, but the reason why we had to take a pause with our D&D sessions is because of some random creeper guy who walked into the shop during our sessions. It was the DM in my story and I who were running the games that night. When the players took a break, we both stayed behind and worked on our tables, setting up minis and maps for the next part of the sessions, etc. Apparently, the creeper guy walked up to her and started talking to her, and I didn't realize that she was uncomfortable because I was focused on doing what I needed to do at the table. I was in the room the entire time, and they were no more than 10 feet from me, and all I could hear was just this guy talking about D&D to her. Turns out the guy at one point tried to hug her, which I never saw, but I believe her when she says that's what happened. Apparently, he was drunk and making her feel uncomfortable, and she was trying to give me looks, but I was focused on my table, so I wasn't looking at her. After the guy ended up walking away without any incident, she told me that she was trying to tell me that she needed help with her looks. And I told her I had no idea that was the case because I didn't hear anything bad from that conversation, nor did I see the guy do anything. I definitely take an L for not, hyper-focusing on a conversation between two adults. I was in the room the whole time, and if the guy tries anything, I would have been right there to help her, but I didn't visually see anything happen. She made me feel really shit for it. I'm not saying that she killed me twice in last night's game because of that instant specifically, but I don't know. If she's still upset by the situation, I understand her feeling that way, but I really hope she wasn't taking it out on me in game.
Unfortunately, she probably was. She was maybe subconsciously. I don't know if she was necessarily consciously like, I'm after this guy. Like, that's...
Well, the first round of combat, she knocked the dude's character prone and disintegrated him.
Yeah.
She know what she was doing. She knows what she was doing.
So there's at least the first one, but yeah, that's one of those like, fool me once, it's my fault, or whatever, fool me twice, that's on you, or something, like, or vice versa. I can't remember, pregnancy brain. So going more to the comment then, because that just sets up the whole game.
Right,
At that point, the game doesn't even matter.
Gosh,
So as a female, if you are ever stuck in an uncomfortable situation, there is someone else in the room. Unfortunately, looks don't cut it. Like, no one can read your brain. No, especially in game stores where you're focused on stuff and, you know, honestly, you can say it's a guy thing. I would argue it can be a guy or a girl thing. Where
Amy,
you get so...
Amy can attest. When I get hyper-focused on something, everything around me gets shut off.
Yeah, and it's one of those classic funny things where I can say whatever and be like, yeah, I'm leaving you today. And he'd be like, huh? And I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought.
Have a good day.
Okay, bye. Right? Like,
I'll see you tomorrow.
It literally happens like that. And me too. Like, whenever I'm on my phone and I'm having to type someone, he's talking to me at the same time, I have to look up and be like, say what again? I couldn't hear you because I was typing.
Right, right.
This guy, it's not his fault. He didn't totally notice. If you really are in an uncomfortable situation, what I would have at least done is tried techniques to be like, okay, thanks. Like, you can go whatever, or like try to at least separate myself from them or have him leave. Or I say, oh, give me 1 second. I need to go over here and ask my friend a question. Can you excuse me? Or like, then physically walk over to him, ask him a question, but be like, hey, can you come over here and help me? Like, you know, you can play that. Like, if he did not respect the fact that you could disconnect from this creeper dude conversation, that would have alerted the other guy, like if you walked over and the guy followed kind of thing. Like, it doesn't sound like they were on opposite sides of the room or anything. They sound like they were fairly close. So it's just understanding those tactics as far as how to get out of a creeper situation, especially if you're in a room where there are other people. Like, you can get their attention. You don't have to do it via looks, because ain't nobody gonna just be looking, especially if they're focused on other things.
One thing I would suggest would be, if you're in a public setting like this, and especially, it's sad to say, but especially for females. I don't like saying it, but it's the truth.
It's one of those.
It's just one of those
things.
If you're in a public setting like that, like at a game store, I think setting up a safe word is a good thing to do. I'll give you a good example. When I was at Salt Lake doing this event called The Convergence, which was hosted by Quincy's Tavern, it was an event where a lot of creators could go and be dungeon masters for a lot of fans. It was awesome. It was great. Had a great time. But then there was a point where the park opened to everybody, and all of us creators got swarmed with people. I wouldn't be able to walk more than 5 steps without getting stopped for 30 minutes. Like, it was crazy. And the security and also the creators there, we all had a safe word, which was, hey, I need to use the restroom. And so if any creator came by or any security guard and we said, hey, I need to use the restroom, that was code for get me out of this situation. I had to use it because I was having a coughing fit and people were trying to stop me and take pictures, which is not a problem, but like I couldn't interact because I was coughing so bad. And so I looked at one and I just said restroom, and they were like, we got you. And they just like booked me to the green room. It was like, oh, thank goodness. So that's really all I gotta say. Make a safe word. So if something like that does happen, this person can come up and say, hey, can you take me to the restroom or something like that? Then you know, oh, I gotta get this person away.
Can you take me to the bookshelves? Or
Yeah, something like that.
Something random.
So,
yeah.
But geez Louise, I think last note is if there are things that happen outside of game, you don't bring it into the game.
You don't.
It's always a good reminder. That's all I got for today's TTRPG horror story. Hello everyone and welcome back to more Reading TTRPG Horror Stories. I'm Duke and this is Wife.
I am Wife.
And we got some juicy stories for you today.
He was reading them last night and he's like, boy,
Oh.
are you ready for tomorrow? And I was like, no. Let's do it.
Yeah, here we go. So again, us reading these stories, our feedback is to hopefully provide advice on how to avoid situations like this and just to make TTRPG just a better space in general.
Or if you just like drama, here's your drama for
Yeah,
today.
absolutely. Here we go. So right off the bat, this first story is my players keep arguing with me. Every time I make a call and it doesn't go their way, they butt heads with me. I get pissed after repetitions over the last session and take a break mid-game. Come back and explain. Most receive well except for the main problem player, Roguelock, the Rogue Warlock. Group level 9 from level 1. It's been over 1 year. Rogue, Warlock, Bard, long story. Then we have a Rogue, a Twilight Cleric, Barbarian Fighter, Barbarian 2, and then Druid. The Roguelock and Cleric are the biggest culprits. For example, last session, my breaking point, the players get back to Lakeside Town and find it flooded and being attacked by water elementals. In combat with those, they ask what time it is. I say probably about 4 p.m. They proceed to argue that would be sunset with the logic that it's winter. I say our sun sets at like 8. They say, but it's summer and the sun sets early in winter. I say, yeah, but not by 4 hours, etc. After combat, they go to the water's edge and can see that the center of the lake is shooting out a torrent of water. Portal to the elemental plane opened at the bottom. They find a large rowboat and head there. Druid has to go back to his house for a bit for valid reasons. After a while, they get into combat with a high-power crocodile that I found called the Dracodile. It has an attack that grapples a creature and you are hit by it, but it has a low escape DC. They call bullshit and try to make an acrobatics check or something to get away from it. I say no. They push more and more. After a round or two, their boat is broken and I try to do a bile spit attack like a black dragon's breath weapon, and they call bullshit again, saying it would just disperse in the water. I get pissed because the Roguelock is talking to me like I'm a child/moron, so I say, you know what? F this, we are taking a break. I sit in my chair and scroll on my phone while Roguelock and Rogue play on the Xbox and the others disperse. Cleric is apologetic. Druid gets back after about 25 minutes and I call everyone back to the table. I tell everyone that sometimes I might make a bad call. You are allowed to say something about it, but if we can't agree within a few seconds, drop it and we will talk about it later. I don't care what you think should happen. A lot of these times, I have to make my own rules because of the stuff I let you guys do outside of 5e rules, and that's not easy. Everyone seemed to agree, but Roguelock avoids eye contact and just shakes his head while messing with dice. They used to be a lot worse, stealing from each other all the time and doing PvP, which I stopped with a speech like this. I don't think this is going to be a fix, though. I'm not asking a specific question. I just needed to vent. So with this one, people are immediately saying that dungeon masters need to explain to their players that they are not trying to compete. with each other. They are not trying to compete against their players. The Dungeon Master is not trying to outsmart the players. The Dungeon Master is not out to get the players. The Dungeon Master is there to help guide the players throughout the story, and they throw challenges along the way. The Dungeon Master is the storyteller. The Dungeon Master is also the navigator. And yes, like what he said, there are times where you will make bad calls as a Dungeon Master. I've made bad calls as a Dungeon Master, and people have called me out for it, and I go, oh, you're right. And we move on. Or I go, let's just do it this way. And they go, okay. And we move along with it. This guy seems to have made some good explanation with how to go about this, but again, the roguelike, I personally think this is a teenage group, just from the sounds of it, especially the part where once we took a break, they immediately went and played Xbox.
Hey, adults do that too.
Adults do that too. That sounds very much like a teenager thing to do.
It's valid. Two things. To the point of how the DM handled it, I thought that was handled very well as far as we need to take a break.
Yeah.
Let's come back and have a conversation. I mean, it doesn't sound like there was a conversation. He got to say what he wanted to say. There wasn't much discussion, but I also think at that point, the two individuals that were causing the most quote unquote problems were probably like, their coping mechanism is probably like, I don't want to talk about it right now, like, I'm not going to be listened to, or there could be all these different things in it where they probably didn't agree or say anything because they were like, I'm over this, and so, but my other thing too, though, is when it comes to players and the actuallys, I do it. I think it is totally appropriate sometimes. I think the actuallys become not okay when they become rule Nazis or rule lords or whatever you want to call it, right? Like whatever phrase out there as far as the hardcore core rule followers go. There needs to be an understanding that sometimes the DM does have to just make something up because there's no...
Dungeon Master is making something up? What? No.
Because as we all well know, Dungeons and Dragons has rules, but they don't have rules. So there needs to be that understanding there. But it's just how you approach it. Like... if you're approaching it in a way where it's very like, actually you're wrong and we should do it this way, that's never going to go well. If it's, actually, hey, like, have we thought about this, or would this be cool, or, oh, did you actually, like, did you look at this, or, I don't know. It's always going to happen. I'm not saying players shouldn't be, actually, because sometimes you do need to check in, and sometimes the DM's like, oh, yeah, no, that makes sense, yeah, sure, that works.
Yeah.
Or rule of cool. Like, I don't know. You just kind of got to blend with it. But if it's all about the intention, it sounds like this DM was fed up with these people's intention and how they were doing it.
Right. And kind of reiterating what you're saying, if you approach a problem with aggression, it's not going to get solved. Usually when that happens, the aggressor gets everyone else aggressive and will not take any other answer besides the answer they want to hear. 9 times out of 10, that's usually what happens. What you need to do to approach it is talk and explain and just talk it out and figure out what is happening. So in this case, again, the Dungeon Master was just doing his job. The players thought they were targeting him. The players definitely could handle it a lot better. There does need to be more communication about it and retelling your players, hey, I'm here to help the story, not have a butting heads about any of this. I'm not trying to compete against you.
To this point, though, with the crocodile thing, it sounded like a pretty dope crocodile.
Yeah, it's a freaking dope crocodile.
So, like, the fact that they were calling BS, it's like, do you want me to show you the stats? Like,
Right.
I don't...
Yeah.
What? Like...
Oh, and last but not least, sorry, I'm going to totally interrupt you.
Rude.
I know. Another thing that they said is, as a Dungeon Master, it's okay to say no. It is okay to tell your players no. It is okay to have suggestions brought to you and you say no. It's okay to have role-playing suggestions be told no. That's going to come up soon.
So conclusion, approach things with a good mindset and
have a good understanding with your Dungeon Master and the players and your role as the Dungeon Master and their roles as the players. This one is titled Too Stupid to Dodge Attacks. So I hopped into a short-only war campaign halfway through, very stereotypical lineup, including someone playing dumb brute kind of character. Most of the players were fine. I knew almost all of them already. The DM was doing great for what was essentially her first time running a game, but the brute was a nightmare. To be frank, I think he wanted to play an Ogryn, an incredibly stupid ogre-like spin-off of humanity, and been told he wasn't allowed to. So he circumvented this by playing a regular human, pumped his strength up to an insane degree, and playing him like an incredible dumbass. For most of the campaign, this was irritating but tolerable. Our heavy weapons specialist just picked up the radiated object, sure, whatever, get him to the med bay. We showed increasing frustration as he tried to turn everything into Three Stooges, slapstick, and eventually the DM pulled him aside about actively hampering the party and messing with the tone of the game, and he promised to knock it off. But the campaign's finale, a madcap dash to evacuate our ship as it's ravaged by Dark Elder boarding parties, was the worst. We were already off to a bad start because he caught him launching Jurassic World Evolution as the DM was opening the session, and he sheepishly explained he got bored waiting for his turn. So after the gentlest possible chewing out, he closes his game, and the DM continues describing how explosions rock the ship and the hallways are crawling with alien invaders. The party quickly figures out a plan to use the maintenance shaft to avoid getting caught, prying open an access hatch so we can rush to the evacuation shovels before a limited time frame to escape runs out. All in all, it's not a bad plan. The Brute describes how he ignores the rest of the party, funneling into the hatch, and instead ran down the main corridor that he knew was an ambush site. He brushes off our attempts to stop him and describes running down the corridor for no particular reason. The DM narrates a bolt of enemy fire loosing at him and asking for a dodge roll. For those not familiar with the system, this is an automatic part of what happens when you get hit in Only War. It's the equivalent to rolling a dex save in 5e. The Brute says that he's too stupid to know he needs to dodge attacks and insists the DM let him take the damage straight up. You'd be forgiven at this point for assuming the Brute was just trying to suicide his character. We certainly thought so, but when the party impassively watched him run down the corridor, they told him not to go down, get shot, and keep running forward. We shrugged our shoulders and turned to leave down the maintenance shaft, and he panicked. He went from, ha ha ha, I'm too dumb to know what danger is, to running as fast as he could back towards our exit and taking cover. It turns out his shenanigans were entirely based upon him assuming we'd throw ourselves into the fire to rescue him from the danger he put himself in, and once he realized we wouldn't, he remembered what self-preservation was. He managed to escape into the maintenance tunnels with the rest of us and stayed mostly quiet for the rest of the finale. So this guy is an instigator, is what we like to call him. Kind of on the same level of main character syndrome, but just a level beneath. Like, he wants to be the reason why the party does certain things. But in this sense, he wanted to have the party follow whatever his instigation was. Once he found out that the party was not into it, he was like, oh, okay, and then just totally wasn't into the game anymore.
Was he being the Three Stooges kind of guy?
Yeah. This is the Three Stooges kind of dude.
I mean, that's almost, I guess, instigator, that almost aligns up with, like, class clown kind of vibe. Nothing against class clowns. Huge fan of them if done right. Again, it's all about, like, a player's intention. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he wanted to have a good time, but he ended up trying to take the game into his own hands to make it a certain way that was entertaining for him, which is totally, understandable. A lot of people all the time will make offhand comments or like want to make their party laugh and stuff. But yeah, in a situation like this, it's kind of like, understand your role as your character. Like, just one of those things where it was like, he was not going to win that situation.
No, he wasn't.
No, I mean, I feel like he should have realized already that people were not going to follow him or try to save him.
Yeah.
Because he ran for no apparent reason. If his party knew, like, oh, you're trying to go back and get something, or, oh, we forgot something, or you need to save someone, absolutely we're going to jump in. But if you're just like, I'm just going to run back, okay.
Yeah.
You really expect me to go after you said I'm just gonna go back? Like, if he changed it to a suicide mission to save face, should have done that. Again, I mean, it's just, I think if he was with a different group of people, it would have worked great. But if this was not the people, it's like, no, it's not the people. Like, I'm not saying what he did was bad. I'm just saying it wasn't the right place, right time, right group kind of thing.
You summed up what I was going to say. I was like, it's probably not the right group for him to play in.
Yep.
Like, I love those characters. It's fun to just do stupid things like that. But this group was taking it seriously while he wasn't taking it very seriously.
Yes.
That's probably the best way to sum it up. And I do understand the habit of opening up a game when combat is ran. Combat takes forever, and it's not very exciting when it's not your turn. Like, yes, I understand pulling things up and getting ready, but it sounded like he pulled up the Jurassic World game right as they started. I don't know. I might have read that wrong.
We can only assume so.
We can only assume so. Yeah, we can only assume so much.
He does it.
I'm
too.
at fault at that as well. Like, when combat's going, I'll check social media. I'll do things because it's just like, I play all the martial fighters. I like my bonk people. So my rounds take like 1 minute and then we're done. Because it's just like, okay, I'm going to bonk and then bonk really hard. And then that's it. But then we get to everyone else who's like playing spellcasters and whatnot, and everyone's trying to figure out the mechanics of the spell and things. And it just takes about 15 minutes to get back to your turn. And you're just kind of like, yeah, I get that part. There's a time and place to pull up the phone, but not when you just start. Like that's not a good look. And this is also a time where, going back to the last story, telling the funny, stupid guy that he was playing, this is a perfect time to just say no.
Yeah.
Like, this is a good time to just say, no, I'm not going to allow you to do that.
The DM could have easily been like, if he said, hey, I want to run back, it's like, cool, like, why? You know, like, the DM can ask why, like, what's your purpose? Because that also helps the DM with role-playing, too.
Exactly.
Okay, tell me what your intentions are, what you're wanting to do. And if he doesn't come up with anything, it's like, okay, great, the doors are closed. You can't go. Like, that's your way of saying no. Or, like, no, we're not going to do that because that's not, like, you just have no purpose. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, the DM can even kind of call out a little bit and be like, no,
You're
absolutely not.
So, consensus, read your players. It's okay to be an instigator, but know when to be an instigator, know when it's appropriate. Every D&D group or every group in general needs an instigator. There needs to be someone who pushes the story forward. This person was doing it in the wrong way with the wrong group. That's all we're saying.
Yeah. I'm all for crazy shenanigans.
Right.
I do it all the time. My character is notorious for it.
It needs to make sense.
Yeah, and it needs to be something that can be playable with and something that's not a suicide mission for everybody else.
Right.
Go team.
So this next one.
Wait, we're doing 3?
Yes.
Whoa.
This next
I thought
one.
that was
So
it. Don't cover your face. Be
I'm going to cover
confident.
it. When we
confident.
started this was to mainly help people avoid situations and to make sure everyone has a good time, right?
Right.
We want to give advice. This is what it's for. And there's a story for everything. And
This makes him very uncomfortable, apparently. Can you just read it now?
and sadly, this is a story that does need to be said because this is important to talk about. This is a very important aspect to talk about. Content warning. Some weird sex stuff and bestiality.
Okay, let's read.
Here we go. I promise this is going to be good. And it's going to have a good message by the end of it. Just hold on to your pillow.
Read it. Okay, read it with the greatest straight face you can.
I can't.
Oh, I'm
This is
disappointed.
called The Puppy Bastard.
Ooh.
I felt the need to post this, mostly just to get it out. We had a character join our established group to make the numbers up when our rogue had to leave due to having a new baby, and it all went really sideways. Content warning, weird sex stuff, bestiality. The cast, Dungeon Master, our regular DM who's been running our game for a couple years, Cleric, Rogue's husband, who is a friend of DM, mostly focuses on a support role, Fighter, longtime friend of mine and DM, likes to play a frontline warrior, keeping enemies away from us. Wizard, this is me, standard supportive wizard. Ranger, the new guy, found him online and vetted him before adding him to the party, likes to play, well, you'll see. The first few sessions with the new guy went fine. He was playing a Beastmaster Ranger with a large dog as his companion. The dog would run forward and aid our fighter whilst he stayed back with me and shot arrows. He always made a fuss of the dog after any encounter and really made it feel like a character. It was cute. Our fourth session with him, the cleric returned. He'd not been able to come due to being a new dad for a while. He gives us an update on Rogue and says that once she feels ready, they'll be taking turns playing as his cleric. So they both get to play and parent. Everyone is cool with that. They're both great. This is the session where Ranger starts to get weird. It's a less combat heavy session when the previous few and a large amount of it is spent in an inn, planning our next move in the campaign while sat around a table. Cleric is explaining what he learned from his order while he was away and filling us in on some plot details the DM had given him, the in-game reason for his absence. The Ranger seems to be listening intently. Then he just scribbles something down and slips a note to the DM. DM looks a little confused and says, Dog rubs his head against your hand. Ranger interrupts, quote, her, comma, dog is a bitch, end quote. I don't understand one. The DM nods and Cleric continues. Ranger points something out on the map, but tells us all he wipes his hand on his jerkin before touching the map so it doesn't get sticky. DM sighs, but Ranger's insight is useful and we continue. A little while later, while I'm talking about something magical, Ranger passes another note to the DM who says, I guess you can. Dog seems to like it and wags her tail. The questioning tone in the DM's voice had me concerned, and I asked if I noticed what's going on. DM has me roll a perception and tells me Ranger has his hand under the table and you can see his arm moving. You softly hear Dog making some sort of sound. I decided not to pry any further and got back to the game, asking Fighter what they made of my plan. Ranger interrupts. At this point, his contribution is good. The RP is good, but he starts it with, I wipe my hands on my jerkin before picking up the condiments and spoons and using them as props to explain. At this point, it's a little off-putting, and I don't know why he keeps drawing attention to it. That session ends, and after I talked to the Fighter and Cleric about it and asked if they thought it was weird, they said yes, and Fighter said they thought Ranger was a dog lover in more ways than one. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Cleric said he hoped Ranger would just pack it in. Next session, and we are engaging in the plan we decided on last time. There's a lot of stealthily creeping around, and at one point, Ranger and Dog, being our scout, move ahead alone. When they return after a short 10-minute private RP session with the DM, we are both told both Ranger and Dog are returned dirty, marked with grass stains, but looking satisfied. I catch Fighter's eye, and they make a sickening face. Then the game continues. The Ranger informs us that after forcing his way through a tight passage where he really had to squeeze, he had managed to find an entrance to the castle. It's not far, and he leads us off that way. The rest of the session proceeds as planned. I receive a message from Fighter not long after the session. He just says, why is he role-playing effing his dog? To which I just replied, he better stop or I'm going to have a word with DM. This isn't what we signed up for. The following session rolls around and we start the session coming out of a long rest. Ranger is an elf and has been downstairs in the common room all night with Dog because he doesn't sleep and doesn't need a bed. This is the first session with Rogue back playing Cleric's character. As Rogue, as Cleric, enters the room, the DM says Ranger is sat at the table looking kind of blissed out of his eyes, unfocused. Dog is nowhere to be seen. Ranger passes DM a note. At this point, I'm on high alert for some really weird dog-related shit. Sure enough, Dog dashes out from under the table, muzzle wet with something, which causes Ranger to snap back into the room and see Rogue as Cleric standing there. Just as Dog jumps up and licks her face, Ranger says, she likes you. Don't worry, she's really affectionate when you get to know her, and winks. At this point, I had enough, but I kept my mouth shut and made it through the rest of the session. Rogue was not impressed, to say the least, so afterwards, when we told her what had been going on, she was grossed out and joined the rest of us in asking the DM to boot Ranger from the group. He was disinvited, and we didn't have to see his dog-loving face again. I read that, and I tried so hard to find some explanation about this. And the only thing I have to say about that is you are playing a fantasy game, but this is not the time to play fantasy, if that makes any sense.
Again, if there's a group out there that role plays this stuff, by all means, that's your life.
Yeah, go for it.
Just again, like I said before, time, place, people.
We are in
If
a
it's
race
the time, place, and the right people, absolutely do whatever you want. I do not judge when it comes to that stuff because it's like, look, you're all whatever. You guys agreed to it. Not my monkey, not my circus, right?
Not my dog, not my table.
But if you're in this situation where obviously these people did not sign up for that, don't do it. It makes everybody extremely uncomfortable. The fact that the DM let it go that far, I would have said no right off the bat. Like after that first slip of paper, I would have afterwards been like, what's the goal here? And if they somehow explained whatever they were explaining to me, be like, okay, great, not here. Like, unless you want to talk to everybody else and be okay with that, and they be okay with that, sure. I'm more acting uncomfortable and just like, absolutely not, because it's just not, it's just not in the right, the right element.
No,
and
it's not.
And it's just, if you're into that, you're into that. Again, no judgment. It's just, okay, great. But like, not everyone is into that.
Right. And again, that, to reiterate, everyone has some type of fantasy that they want to live in. And there are times where people want to play out that fantasy. You have to know when it is an acceptable time to play out that fantasy. And I will say, playing role-playing games does not give you the okay right off the bat to play that, because you are playing a fantasy game. Things like this need to be discussed and need to be communicated with the Dungeon Master and players. Apparently, the Dungeon Master didn't know about this, and the Ranger just kind of kept slipping paper over. But again, Dungeon Masters, this is a time where you say no. You say no, you're not going to allow this, or you ask them what's the goal in all of this.
Yeah.
But at the next point, the players didn't do anything else. They were cautious about it, but they should have brought something up. They should have talked to the player. This should have been a conversation.
I just remembered what happened during the one-on-one session.
Oh my gosh, you're right. I don't want to think about that.
So that's where it's like,
Oh my gosh, the Dungeon Master just let that happen.
so
Oh!
the Dungeon Master.
Oh no! No!
So
Oh! And they came back like,
dude, shut up.
no!
No, but that's what I'm saying though, is that would have been the time. I mean, if the Dungeon Master is into that, maybe we don't know. Maybe he was in on it
gosh.
and was like, yeah, this is great. What if, like, if the DM was okay with it, the other players still should have been like, okay, wait, we need to have an intervention here and chat about what's going on, because at that point, either the Dungeon Master was very like, yep, do whatever you want, don't care, whatever, I just am happy to be here and be playing like Dungeons and Dragons. That's just one of those like next level of boundaries that need to have a conversation to cross.
Right.
So that's where that whole session of just one-on-one, I am so glad we don't have to hear about it.
Why did you have to bring that up? Anyway, who do I think is painted as the bad picture? I personally am going to say the Dungeon Master, because it just let it happen. And it didn't sound like there was really any communication. I'm not going to fully give the Ranger player the total bad person, because again, it didn't sound like this person got any type of boundary set. They didn't know, and everyone can kind of just let it happen. But the Dungeon Master was very heavily involved and let this happen. So I'm going to say the Dungeon Master is at fault here.
I'm gonna say it's nobody's fault at this point, and it's just
Fair.
uncomfortable for everybody, and there should just be assumptions of there's certain boundaries that aren't crossed without a conversation, and that is definitely one of them.
And just like that conversation, we're going to end this conversation. Thank you guys so much for participating and watching along with us. It really does mean the world how much you guys do enjoy this series. So again, if you have any D&D TTRPG Reddit stories that you guys want us to read off, please go to our Discord and leave us a link in that section with stories that you guys want us to read. But with that, I've been Duke, this has been Wife, and we'll see you in the next episode, Questers. Fairly well. And we'll see you in the next episode, Questers. Bye.
So a friend of mine, Regulus, made me this input monitor for GTA 5, so it will say exactly what inputs I'm pressing at any given time. Of particular importance is the total at the top, because I'm going to challenge myself to get across the entirety of Los Santos without using more than 50 inputs. So normally that wouldn't be that hard. Maybe a little bit challenging, but not that hard. But I'm going to do it while I have a 5-star wanted level the entire way. So key to completing this at all is a small feature that most people don't know about. In the keyboard and mouse settings, there is the ability to make it so your mouse controls your car. So rather than pressing A and D, I can just move my mouse from side to side. It makes driving extremely difficult, but it does mean, therefore, I need to do no inputs to steer. Looks painful? It is. No one uses it for a reason. And I have no experience in it. But we'll see how we do. Okay, so increase wanted level, set freeze wanted level. Let's go. Wait, no, I turned it off. Shit. The cops are coming, man. This one is set. Okay, good. Okay, that's one input. So I don't ever want to slow down because that would require me to do another input. This is so difficult. Okay. People are gonna make fun of me, man. This is how you drive after playing the game for 10,000 hours? I don't want to brake. I don't. This is not gonna work. I mean, I'm happy I started with armor at least. Do I even know a route to get out of the city? I don't. Okay, I can't. Oh, thank fuck. I can't control myself in the air. No, there's no way I can make this turn. I wonder. Well, I can totally get myself stuck in some spots. No. I mean, in some cases, no. Well. No, come on. Fine. Okay. It is really, really hard to control yourself with just the mouse, chat. Wait, no, I don't want to go in the... I mean, is my car even going to survive the entire way? We'll go up here, The bushes actually slow me down, which I'm quite liking. How far can I follow this train track? No. I want to look at chat, but I can't trust myself to steer forward. This is actually a good place to get away from the cops, because they won't spawn on the tracks. No. Well, I have to reverse. There's just no way. No,